Hi, Deb Tucker here from Studio 180 Design, and I'm going to talk to you today about making your Lemoyne stars as half blocks. But those half blocks are going to be what we call Lemoyne triangles. I'm not going to talk about constructing your Lemoyne star blocks. That's all covered in your tools. Once you construct your Lemoyne star sections, what I'm going to talk about is a different way of putting them together to give you large Lemoyne triangles. Now, normally when you construct the blocks, you make things oversized, you use your Lemoyne star tool, and you trim each of these units down so that they are very precise. And your normal mode of construction is to take those two trimmed sides, trimmed units, stitch them together along the diagonal to create squares with your trimmed Lemoyne sections. But what we're going to talk about is not making these into squares that are very simple to trim down, but we're going to talk about making these as triangles. And instead of taking my pieces, sewing them together along the long edge, what I'm actually going to do is put them together the same way, but I'm going to stitch along the short edge, one of the short sides of the triangle piece, so that instead of ending up with squares, I'm going to actually end up with large quarter square triangles that will then be sewn together. So what I'm going to create is a half Lemoyne star block that is actually one large triangle. Trimming down the squares for the traditional Lemoyne stars is pretty easy. Most of us don't have any problem putting a ruler on and trimming that to a square. Trimming this to a triangle is a little bit tricky, and that's what I want to talk about now. Once your pieces are sewn together and you end up with a piece like this, I want to now trim it down and clean it up so it's a precise size to be able to build various different blocks. The first thing that I'll do is turn the unit over, turn the half block over so that the wrong side is up, and I'm going to mark with a regular ruler. Now I would mark with the lines that you're going to see me mark with a pencil, but you're going to see it here as a pretty bright dark line. Put a 1/4 inch guide of the ruler up against the raw edge, make a mark there, come down, put your 1/4 inch guide there, and make a mark there. So what I'm going to have are two simple guidelines. Yours should be made just dark enough so you can see them, not overly bright and overly strong, but they're dark here for demonstration purposes. And then I'm going to use one of my favorite trim down rulers, which is the Tucker trimmer. And what I'm going to look at on the Tucker trimmer, let me move that out of the way so you can just see the ruler. There are two lines that I'm going to look at. This is a 9.5 inch block that I'm working with. So the lines that I'm looking at on the tool are my common diagonal that run in this direction, and I have to find my 9.5 inch diagonal that runs in this direction. Those are the two lines that I am going to use on my oversized Lemoyne triangle. The common diagonal will nestle right up against the seam that I've sewn, and I'm going to slide it down until the 9.5 inch side diagonals are lined up with those guidelines. You'll see that that intersects right at the seam intersection of those diamond sections. Then I can take my cutter, run it up along one side and run it down the other. The little bit of trim is taken away. I have a precise size Lemoyne star triangle, and you'll notice that every one of those points is exactly a 1/4 inch from the edge. Now, when would I use something like this? If I were making basket blocks. Here's one here. This is a basket block, and you can see right away where that Lemoyne star, half Lemoyne, or Lemoyne as triangle unit is used for making a basket. Now, one of the nice things about my technique is that you can use it with your traditional pieced Lemoyne sections. But if you'd like, you can make baskets with something that's not so traditional. These are what we call banded Lemoynes. We have another video on that. You can take a look at that and see how to make banded Lemoynes. But I can take my banded Lemoyne sections, turn those into half triangles, and create a basket that has another look. I can also take my Lemoyne sections, do them as what we call Liberty Lemoynes, where we're strip piecing and they're spiraling around the center. Again, there's a video on that and a technique sheet that walks you through and gives you all the numbers. But I can take Liberty Lemoyne sections and team them up and create baskets. And not only can I make things big, but I can also make things very small. What I'd like to take a minute to do is show you a couple of quilt projects that I've made where I've used the Lemoyne Star sections as triangles. This is one. This is one of our patterns. It's called Crown Jewels, and you'll see that the pieces that fill and build in the corners are the Lemoyne triangles. This is one I was working on just the other day. I was playing around with making Lemoyne stars as half blocks. And what we've got on this one, in the center, I have half Lemoynes as triangles, but all these Lemoynes that are around the outside edges, those are all Lemoynes as rectangles. They were done with the squares and then trimmed down. This beautiful quilt that you see behind me is from our Pop Stars pattern. This quilt is actually made with 40 2.5-inch strips. Now, I don't know about you guys. If you're a strip collector, you've probably got 42.5-inch strips. Once you have those 42.5-inch strips, all you do is you're adding 3 different background fabrics. You're adding a light background, a medium, and a dark, and you're creating all kinds of Lemoyne stars, a Lemoyne star block in here, but all kinds of Lemoyne triangles to create this wonderful serpentine border that goes around the edge. So take a look for our Lemoyne as triangles technique sheet. It's available at your local quilt shops. If you can't find it there, check out our website and you can pick one up there. And while you're there, take a look at some of our other videos so that you can learn how to make those banded Lemoynes and those Liberty Lemoynes from some of our other technique sheets. Thanks and enjoy.